Revelation 4067a. From the 21st till 23rd of June 1947. Electrons. Forces which unfold in nature can be regarded as an effect of the eternal creative power, as a consequence which is understandable to every human being who is mentally concerned with it. God's flow of power is directed into infinity, and this power must somehow appear, otherwise it would not be recognizable as power. It must give rise to things or set them in motion. It must generate life. This development of power is therefore a revival of everything that has emerged from God's hand and is to reach again the state in which it originally was, where it was active in creating and shaping. Thus, through the perpetual outpouring of God's power, works of creation must also perpetually come into being, just as a constant activity must also be recognizable in them. This activity is, so to speak, the life of the spiritual embodied in the works of creation, which, if it is recognizable to the naked eye, places the work of creation in the category of living beings. But there are also tiny and most minute living beings which the human eye cannot recognize and which, even if the eye were exceptionally sharpened, cannot be recognized because they move with such speed that they cannot be tracked. But they are of inconceivable power and form, so to speak, the core of the whole of creation, as far as this is apparent to man as matter. They form the basic material, the first form of the power emanating from God. They are condensed emanations of God, living entities in innumerable multiplicity, which are certainly visible as matter when united, but which have not yet entered into this union and which therefore move at the utmost speed because they seek each other and press towards each other. These are therefore spiritual substances of incomparable strength, which buzz around unbound and free and cannot take on any form until they have found each other and now condense more and more. Power emanating from God, strictly speaking, is not divisible. Nevertheless its effects are individual creations, which again each for itself disintegrate into innumerable substantial particles, would they be dissected down to the smallest. And these tiny substances are in constant motion, so they cannot be anything bound that is powerlessly dependent on help. It will only become so when in an infinitely long time a spiritualization of these substances takes place, that is, when they are destined to be carriers of spiritual entities, which only occurs when after merging forms have formed, however small. Thus power from God then condenses into form, and this is the emergence of matter, which probably needs an inconceivably long time to emerge before it becomes visible to the human eye. Every form takes in spiritual things that are to develop upwards. Therefore, as soon as man can determine small and smallest particles through research, they are also already animate, otherwise they could not be substantially proven. And the spiritual that animates these electrons is the imperfect spiritual that begins the course of development on earth and is bound in form. There is no more stupendous discovery during earthly life than the realization that the beginning of the enormous creation is to be found in the most infinite reduction, that every work of creation could therefore be dissected to the most infinite, provided that this plan would be carried out with God's help. But people with only intellectual thinking go so far as to enter an area which they will never completely master. And this riddle will not be solved as long as the earth is still existing. Amen.